This isn't normal. Neither is this, or this, or this. These aren't California's values, or America's. It's clear that Washington's status quo has failed. We need bold leaders who will stand up and say enough is enough. Kevin De Leon has led the resistance against Donald Trump in California, showing we can lead the nation on climate change, better jobs, universal health care, and immigrant rights. We need a fearless leader to stand up for our values in the U.S. Senate. We need Kevin De Leon. A Progressive California is responsible for the content of this advertising.
You start to think about a lot of things when that cell door closes. I knew they could take away our freedom, but they could never take away our determination to fight for working people. Knowing I was there from fighting for basic rights didn't open up the cell doors, but that knowledge made it bearable. It was this work as a classroom teacher and workers' rights activist where I organized rallies and helped build a movement that landed me in jail, but also provided a victory for workers that ensured livable wages, basic rights, and fair treatment for teachers. All it cost me was my freedom. In today's America, the real battle is between those fighting for a genuine overhaul of the rigged system and those who defend the status quo while hiding behind empty rhetoric. The problem with Washington today is not just Donald Trump. It's the powerful insiders who enable him and the cowardly politicians who won't stand up to him. Ed Royce seems like a nice enough guy, but the fact is he votes with Donald Trump 97% of the time and is silent when Trump degrades our own citizens and our international reputation. Karen and I have been married for over 30 years, and we don't even agree 97% of the time. And unlike Ed Royce and Donald Trump, when my wife and I disagree about something, we tell each other. I'm running because I believe it's time we have a member of Congress who will fight corporate greed, stand up to Wall Street, and work to restore the middle class. Not just send out sound bites and tweets, but someone who will crusade for a fair economy that benefits all Americans, not just those at the top. After I left the classroom, I started a business that provided retirement security to teachers. I've always believed that a country, like a company, only succeeds if it treats people well. I've run my company with those values, and in Washington I'll do the same, prioritizing people, not big-moneyed interests. And I promise you this, I won't agree with any president, Democrat or Republican, 97% of the time. I'll represent you, not the Washington elites. I was willing to go to jail to challenge a rigged system. Join me, and I'll fight for you in a place that has almost as much dysfunction as jail, the U.S. Congress.
Two candidates for Congress. One supports impeaching Donald Trump. The other is silent. Andy Thorburn says Donald Trump should be impeached for obstruction of justice. Ed Royce, silent. Thorburn says Trump should be impeached for profiting off his presidency. Royce, silent. Andy Thorburn says Donald Trump should be impeached for repeatedly lying to the American people. Ed Royce, silent. In Congress, Andy Thorburn will vote to impeach Donald Trump. Silent Ed remains, well, silent.
I've worked in international health insurance since 1999. And as the company's grown, we now have clients in over 100 countries, giving me the opportunity to see every healthcare system imaginable. And as a healthcare executive, I'll be the first to admit that America's healthcare system has failed. We spend more money per person on healthcare than any other nation on the planet, yet we have more people dying from a lack of care than any other developed country on earth. The system's broken because our politics are polluted and corrupted with big pharmaceutical companies and insurance corporations that fund Washington politicians like Ed Royce, and they get their way. While he's taking big money from insurance corporations, he's voted to eliminate protections for people with pre-existing conditions, slashed funding for Medicaid and Planned Parenthood, leaving millions of Americans uninsured. I bet you no other health executive will tell you this, but here's what we need to do to guarantee affordable health care for all. First, protect the Affordable Care Act and lower prescription drug prices. Then, build a path to enact Medicare for all as soon as possible. This system would cover more people and save countless lives and taxpayer dollars. In Congress, I'll work to overhaul our broken healthcare system and replace it with one that covers everybody. Because healthcare should be a right, not a privilege, just for those who can afford it. I believe in an inclusive society, a society that's built on diversity, inclusiveness, and opportunity. Regardless of gender, sexual orientation, race, national origin, we need to get back to these ideas, and this includes a compassionate policy towards immigrants and refugees, and that has to encompass a path to citizenship for those immigrants that have come here seeking a better life. If we embrace this, we can get back to what really made America great: diversity, inclusiveness, and opportunity.
What does our healthcare system look like if Donald Trump and Dana Rohrabacher get their way? 24 million more Americans uninsured. Open discrimination against people with pre-existing conditions like cancer and heart disease. Planned Parenthood defunded. Trump care taxes leading to skyrocketing costs for people over 50. Billions slashed from Medicaid and higher prescription drug prices. Harley Ruda's plan? Universal health care for all Americans, including guaranteed coverage for people with pre-existing conditions. Preserve and improve the Affordable Care Act. Fully fund Planned Parenthood. Lower prescription drug prices. Protections for Medicaid expansion. Prevention of a Trump care tax on people ages 50 to 64. Harley Ruda has a plan to make things better. Dana Rohrabacher's plan will make things worse.
Dana Rohrabacher. He's been in Congress for almost 30 years. Here's what he's been up to.
My own inclination is Macedonia is not a country. I'm sorry, it's not a country.
Assad is not our enemy. Neither is Russia our enemy.
Human rights abusers in China, much can be said about Russia as well.
Oh, baloney. Where do you come from?
I come from the former Soviet Union. That's where I came from. I came here as a political refugee.
Had enough of him? I have. This is exactly what's wrong with Washington. Pompous politicians thinking they can walk all over anyone or anything. When Rohrabacher ran for Congress, he promised to serve only 3 terms. Since then, he's broken his promise 10 times, becoming one of the most entrenched members of Washington's establishment. Our country deserves better. Orange County deserves better. We need new leadership that is willing to put country over party and put service above self. I'm Harley Ruda, and I'm running for Congress because it's time to clean house in Washington. As a business owner, I know what it takes to get things done. I'll work to take big money out of politics, tackle climate change, empower women, young people, seniors, and the LGBT community, all while getting tough on Russia. Join me. Let's send a message that it's time for career politicians to hit the road. I'm Harley Ruda, and I approve this message.
Let's lift the curtain on Charter Amendment RRR. It's a power grab by the DWP that gives voters less oversight, not more. And it restricts voters' decision-making powers, giving DWP's unelected bureaucrats more power to determine rate hikes and approve multi-million-dollar contracts. Don't be fooled. Say no to Charter Amendment RRR. It's a DWP power grab.
It took a lot of hard work for me to earn the title of LA's taxpayer watchdog. With that title comes a great sense of responsibility. That's why it's my duty to tell you that Charter Amendment RRR is a bad deal for the people of LA. It reduces voters' say. It limits your decision-making powers over multi-million-dollar contracts and rate hikes at the Department of Water and Power. It's no secret DWP needs reform, but RRR means less accountability, not more. Vote no.
Every community has a story. California's got a lot of them to tell. Our Golden State story has expanded from the gold rush into a magnificent narrative encompassing Hollywood, the aerospace industry, a thriving tech economy, family farms, world-class universities, and more. It's a California story. People in every corner of our state tell their kids about the California dream. And that dream is what brought my family here like many others. I'm Dr. Ed Hernandez, and my story begins in the working class city of La Puente. My parents instilled in me the values of working hard and the importance of an education. I learned from their example and worked my way through school and was the first in my family to attend college. I studied hard, became an eye doctor, and chose to provide care in my community. I ran for the state senate and I took on some of the biggest issues in our state: affordable health care, better schools, and more good-paying jobs. Today, I'm running for lieutenant governor because I believe that every story matters. Join me. Let's write California's next chapter together.
The difference between life or death for me means having an EpiPen on hand at all times. This used to cost $90, now it's $600 because pharmaceutical corporations exploit patients like me who can't live without their medicine. Senator Ed Hernandez has taken on Big Pharma to prevent price gouging and make life-saving medicine more affordable. Americans pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Because of Ed Hernandez, California will protect patients and hold drug corporations accountable.
A leader is measured not just by their own story, but how they impact the story of others. Senator Ed Hernandez has dedicated his career to helping others. Here are their stories.
If it wasn't for Ed Hernandez, I wouldn't be able to afford health insurance. And now I can. And no longer do I have to choose between paying my mortgage or paying my medical bills.
He helped invest in job training programs, ensure livable wages, and create good-paying middle-class jobs to help people like me make ends meet.
I'm thankful Senator Ed Hernandez had the courage to take on big tobacco and raise California's smoking age to 21. His law will help keep kids safe and prevent them from smoking in the first place.
Traffic and the smog it causes hurts our economy and leads to all kinds of respiratory illnesses. Ed Hernandez worked to ease traffic, combat pollution, protect our environment, and tackle climate change.
He's long pushed for a California free from discrimination, where everyone is equal in the eyes of the law.
As a public school teacher, I see fear in the eyes of my students that their parents will be deported. Senator Hernandez is fighting for immigrant rights so that my students don't have to live in fear.
Ed Hernandez has taken on skyrocketing tuition costs, worked to make California's universities more accountable, and he's backed college affordability programs so that people like me can graduate from UCLA.
Far too often, a good-paying job can be hard to come by for returning veterans. Ed Hernandez understands this. It's why he worked to expand educational and job training programs to give veterans a fair shot at reaching the middle class.
Ed Hernandez's record of progress has helped shape my California story.
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 My story.
My story.
And my California story.
Ed Hernandez for Lieutenant Governor, a real record of progress for all of us.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best.
Donald Trump continues to attack immigrants, like my mom and dad, a seamstress and a factory worker. His hate has only made me more determined to empower Californians to control their own lives. While Trump degraded women, I helped pass equal pay for equal work in California. While Trump rips apart healthcare, I am fighting to secure it for all Californians. While Trump denied climate change, I pushed the toughest environmental laws in America. While Trump University defrauded students, I backed California's DREAM Act.
California in many ways is out of control, as you know.
Mr. Trump, you're right about that. California is out of your control. I'm running for insurance commissioner to keep Californians in control of our lives and our future.
Justice hasn't ever come easy, but we fight hard for it because it's worth it. I learned that lesson from my uncle, Jefferson Thomas. At 15 years old, he was on the front lines of the civil rights movement as one of the first black students to integrate at Little Rock Central High School. They were called the Little Rock Nine. My uncle was spat on and called names. But the moral arc of the universe, as Dr. King said, bends towards justice. President Eisenhower intervened and made sure my uncle could go to a school he wanted to attend. My Uncle Jefferson's bravery inspired me to dedicate my life to fighting for justice for all, whether it's racial, gender, social, environmental, or economic justice. It's why I helped form the California Progressive Caucus and enacted laws that undo generations of injustice and inequality. In California, we've shown we can have the strongest workers' rights, immigrant rights, civil rights, and environmental rights in America, and at the same time, the world's 6th largest economy. But injustice still exists in every corner of our society. Today, it doesn't come in the form of National Guard troops keeping a school segregated. Instead, it's economic and societal forces that keep communities divided. We spend 5 times as much to jail a young person for a year as we do to educate them. And yet, billionaires and corporations exploit our rigged system, getting massive tax breaks while the poor struggle to make ends meet. I'm Reggie Jones Sawyer. With your help, I'll continue fighting for a fairer, more just, and inclusive society that works for all Californians. Because justice doesn't come easy, but that makes the victory so much sweeter.
Mark Steinhorth and Donald Trump, 2 sides of the same coin. Steinhorth voted against giving children health care. Trump wants to deport them. Steinhorth got an F from classroom teachers. Trump wants to fire them. Steinhorth opposes gun-free schools. So does Donald Trump. Steinhorth opposed equal pay for women. Trump says he kisses them without asking. No matter which side this coin lands on, we lose. Say no to Mark Steinhorth.
Why is Mark Steinhorth laughing? Money. Yup, Steinhorth's cracking up because his campaign's bankrolled by oil and big tobacco, and he's getting rich, raking in big money off his political career. That's just dirty politics. Here's how it works. Special interests hire Mark Steinhorth. Those same interests lobby Sacramento. Mark Steinhorth votes their way, and he cashes in, using campaign donations to pay himself. Say no to Mark Steinhorth. He's in it for the big money and himself.
The president hardly ever endorses local candidates. When he does, it's because it's really, really important. That's why President Obama endorsed Abigail Medina for state assembly.
This election isn't just about defeating extreme Republican candidates. It's also about electing strong Democrats.
President Obama says Abigail Medina will work to make this country stronger, fairer, safer, and cleaner. November 8th, join President Obama. Vote Abigail Medina for state assembly.
The daughter of immigrants
who saw firsthand what it's like to live in poverty and to grow up in the foster care system.
Abigail Medina's story isn't much different from the stories of many in our community.
As a child, she moved from neighborhood to neighborhood and from school to school.
And as a young working mother with 5 children, like millions of Americans who were down on their luck during the Great Recession, Abigail grappled with home foreclosures.
Sacrificing for her family, she drove from San Bernardino to the Central Valley every week to work in the fields so she can make ends meet.
Because of these experiences, Abigail uniquely understands the daily struggles that countless children and families face every day in our neighborhoods.
That's why my mom,
and my mom is the best equipped leader to serve as our community's voice in the state assembly.
As your state assembly member, I'll fight for social and economic justice, like more good jobs and a living wage, better neighborhood schools, more affordable colleges and universities, increased funding for police and firefighters, and common sense measures to combat gang violence, all while protecting women's rights and advancing smart environmental policies that ensure clean air and water for future generations.
Abigail Medina.
Our voice.
Our choice.
For state assembly.